Michael previously worked for the Ohio Development Service Agency in the State Energy Office, administering programs for the installation of wind, solar, anaerobic digesters throughout Ohio. And Michael has a master's degree from Indiana University and an undergraduate from Miami University. It's a pleasure to have him with us, representing the Department of Energy. And there's a lot of questions I'm sure that he will have after his presentation, but let me turn it over to Michael at this time. I thank you very much for being here and taking the time to be here explaining these issues to a very eager group of people that are interested in the details that will affect their districts in ways in which we can be helpful. Thank you very much, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Senator. Appreciate the time to talk to this audience, to talk a little bit about the IRA rebates. And yeah, from a background perspective, this really, I joined DOE here in August, literally 1 week after the IRA rebates or the IRA legislation had been passed. So I had already left Cincinnati, agreed to come to DOE, and then 1 week before I started, this monumental piece of legislation came down. So, you know, the organization that I work for is the State and Community Energy Programs Office within DOE. We're a relatively new organization that started last January. With the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure law, really DOE recognized that we needed to shift from more of a research and tech organization to one of deployment. And so because deployment is, you know, requires its own special skill set and own special focus, the Office of the Undersecretary of Infrastructure was created, where a lot of the deployment funds that were delivered to DOE live, and a number of individual offices were created to manage those funds. So examples of those offices include our Office of Clean Energy Demonstration, our manufacturing offices, grid deployment office, and many others that are really focusing on delivering these funds to the American public and speeding our transition to a clean energy future towards a net zero economy by 2050. And we're all working hard to make sure that happens. So with the Inflation Reduction Act, a number of programs were, or a number of provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act were assigned to the State and Community Energy Program Office, and they're actually designed to work together. So from a high impact perspective, when we look at these 4 programs that are assigned to the state, to SCEP, we have our workforce development dollars, we have our 2 IRA rebate programs, which we'll be talking about here today. And then we have a energy codes program as well to move states and communities towards 2021 or net zero energy codes. And these are really all designed to work together. So you need to build your workforce, your base. You need to develop your market through your IRA rebates to support your workforce. And then you need to achieve long-term market change through our energy codes. So all of these work together so that 10 years from now, when this program has run its full course, the market looks drastically different. The home energy systems market, the way that we look at energy in a home, looks different than it does today. So we have a number of goals that we're using to guide these programs. The number 1 goal, of course, is to make sure that we're reducing the home energy bills of the American public. These energy efficiency technologies really have the opportunity to bring down people's bills, to address energy burden issues, and help put money in people's pockets. We want to make sure, as I said earlier, that we're enabling this home energy market transformation, and we're activating private capital so that the private market sees the home as an investment opportunity, not just to reduce people's bills, but also to provide services to the utility grid. And so we want to use these rebate funds as a way to enable that. We want to make sure that we're building upon the successful knowledge of many years of states and utilities running rebate or efficiency programs, and that those programs are designed to work together so that we can go further. Because while $8.8 billion sounds like a lot of money, it isn't, especially when we look at the overall scope at which we need to really go, or which we need to scale to achieve our net energy goals by 2050. So we need to make sure that we can layer those funds together. We need to make sure that our utility programs can play with our rebate programs, that our rebate programs can play with other federal programs, such as the Weatherization Assistance Program, or funds coming out of other federal agencies, so that they can work together to do big things. We want to make sure that we're successfully transitioning the American energy system to more efficient fuels and technologies, and building this market through the rebate program, educating the American public, building the workforce will help make that significantly more achievable. And of course, we want to make sure that we're developing economic opportunities for the American worker and for businesses. The home energy market is a large market with a significant amount of dollars available and significant amount of investment. And we want to make sure that that investment occurs here in America and achieves a fair wage for the American worker that's doing this important work. So we're going to spend most of our time here today talking specifically about the IRA rebate programs. There are two rebate programs. So when we're talking about the rebate programs, the first one is our homes rebate program. And the homes rebate program is really about reducing the energy consumption of a home, looking at the holistic energy system within a home. So this rebate program specifically is eligible for anyone. Anybody that achieves a 20% energy reduction in their home through a variety of technologies will be eligible to receive up to a $4,000 rebate. Now, that includes air sealing, insulation, heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, windows, furnaces, all of these sorts of things. It's about the individual, the home, the resident working with a contractor to reduce the overall consumption in the home. Now, we also know that that a lot of these upgrades take a little bit more off our moderate and low income individuals. And so because of that, this rebate is actually doubled for those that are below 80% the area median income. So if you are below 80% of the area median income, this program will pay up to $8,000 depending on the amount of energy savings that you successfully achieve in your home. So this program is both a everybody program and a further enhancement for the moderate and low income individual. Our second rebate program is our electrification rebate program. This is a more prescriptive approach to the rebates. So this allows an individual to select a specific eligible technology and receive a rebate up to 100% of the maximum rebate. So this allows really a significant investment in our moderate and low income individuals. This program specifically is a moderate to low income program. So in order to qualify and in order to participate in these programs, you must be below 150% of the area median income. If you're between 150 and 80%, you can receive up to this rebate amount up to 50% off the installation costs. However, if you're below 80%, if you're a low income individual, you can receive this rebate and it can cover up to 100% of the installation costs. So for example, if you are a LMI individual below 80% the area median income, you purchase a heat pump and it is below that $8,000 maximum rebate, you are actually eligible for to be 100% free installation. These rebates will be designed to be available point of sale. So we know that in a lot of programs, we ask the individual to put the money up front and then to be reimbursed later. That is not the case through both of these rebate programs. We want to make sure that we're not asking the American public to put additional funds out of pocket. And so instead, we'll be working with the states and we'll be working with contractors to essentially enable these rebates to be taken off the top, so that with a bill that an individual sees includes these rebates, and they can, when they do a cost comparison between a less efficient product and a eligible rebate product, they can really see both the short-term installation cost savings and then hopefully understand the long-term energy savings about making a more efficient purchase. So essentially, we are making these energy efficiency products the better fit financial decision for the American public. So when we look at our electrification rebate program, really what we're looking at here is heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, air sealing and installation, Energy Star certified electric stovetops. But another thing that I want to point out with this rebate program that's actually rather special is that it also enables the infrastructure that's required to support electrification. So if somebody needs to upgrade their circuit breaker or the electrical wiring in their homes to support electrification, they are also eligible for a rebate to help that transition take place. Because if you're looking to install an electric heat pump or a heat pump dryer or heat pump water heater, and you don't have the space in your box, in your circuit breaker at home, that installation, that choice for electrification could cost anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000. And so that obviously puts it out of reach of many people in the American public. And so enabling that rebate to support the actual electrical infrastructure in the home is incredibly important when we look at our electrified future. And it's often something that's not included in state and utility rebate programs. So these two programs will be actually administered by the states. So what DOE will do is we will actually put out guidelines to the states that they will need to meet in order to receive funds to administer these rebate programs. So DOE will write the rules. We will provide technical support. We will provide workshops, language and ways to meet the administrative guidelines of these programs, but it will ultimately be a state level decision on how these rebate programs are administered. And I think that that's really important to understand, that the states have the ability to make these programs work where they are. So if they have specific goals, if they have concerns or they have targeting areas which they want to target, looking at LMI communities or potentially targeting different types of different fuel types in somebody's home to better achieve energy savings or better achieve emissions goals, states will have the ability to further lean into that. And so because of that, we thought, because every state is in a different place in climate goals, every state is in a different place in base fuel, housing conditions, climate zones, there was a lot of nuance to make a program work. And so a lot of that nuanced decision will be left up to the states in order to make sure that the program works for them. So because of that, the states have a significant amount of administrative funds to help manage these programs. So DOE, of the $8.8 billion, DOE gets approximately 3% to administer the programs. And that's staff, technical support, tools that we develop, all of those sorts of things. The states have approximately 20% to support their administrative expenses. And so when we think about states and their administrative expenses, we're thinking about staffing, we're thinking about marketing and outreach, we're thinking about tools that they would develop, potentially funding third parties or funding local communities, really to help bring these rebates and stand these rebate programs up to their constituents. So when states end up applying to the federal government for these funds, they have a number of statutory requirements that they are required to respond to. So this is just very quickly some of the statutory requirements that are in the language that states must respond to. DOE will add additional guidelines and requirements that states must respond to as well. But we are still in the process of developing that as we speak. So some of the things that states will need to respond to is income verification. How do they plan to meet the income verification for both rebate programs? Because remember, in the homes program, in order to receive that heightened incentive, somebody must be able to prove that they're below 80% AMI. And in order to qualify for the electrification rebate program, that individual must be able to document that they are below 150% of the area median income. So the states must be able to tell DOE how they plan on meeting those income verification rules. They're also going to have to talk about how they're going to monitor and measure energy savings, how they're going to administer special incentives that the legislation allows for working in disadvantaged communities, and various other things in the program. So from a timeline perspective, DOE issued a request for information back in January. And so we received over 400 individual organizations responded to DOE, over 2,000 pages of information, really highlighting input into program design. And so we heard a lot from our stakeholders. We heard about the importance of engaging around equity, making sure that these funds are really targeted and distributed to our low-income communities. We heard a lot around measured and modeled and how those things are quantified for the homes rebate program. We heard a lot of information on states asking for flexibility in program design and implementation, which I spoke to as well. And so we're working to incorporate a lot of those comments into the guidelines that DOE will be making available. So we had our RFI. In late March, we introduced our first opportunity for funding to states. And so this ALRD 1 is currently available for states. And what states will need to do is complete an application and submit it to DOE, and that makes them eligible for up to $5 million to begin to start the planning and the administrative work necessary to bring these rebates on board. You know, we here at DOE want to be able to operate in parallel to states as they design these programs, because it's going to take a long time if everybody's waiting for each step to be fully completed until they move on with their own section. So we want states to start thinking about the skeleton of a program and things that they need to do to help stand that up. So for example, we outlined in the RFP or in the ALRD 1, things that we think are good uses of funds. One is states to start bring on capacity. You know, we know that these programs are going to take staff or contractors to help administer these programs. And we want the states to start moving down the process to bring that capacity on board now so that there's not delay when we issue the full program guidance later on. We encourage states to start to develop marketing and outreach plans, start to work with their communities and other outreach groups and organizations within their state, so that when the rebates hit the ground, that messaging can begin. We encourage states to start to develop workforce development plans. We know that the workforce is going to be a very key component in order to make sure that these rebates are successful. And DOE will actually be issuing funding opportunity will be coming down for additional workforce funds here in mid-May to help states train the ever important workforce. So that ALRD1, that first financial opportunity, is currently on the streets, and we encourage all states to start firing on as many cylinders as they can right now, so that when we launch the program guidance, the full program guidance in July, the startup period is as short as possible. So in July, we'll be launching the full program guidance. And the full program guidance will contain the rules and regulations around administering a rebate program, what the states must do, and the information that they must submit to DOE in order to receive those rebate funds. We'll actually be issuing 2 sets of documents. One will be the rules and regulations. The second will be a technical guidance document giving states pathways to meet the rules and regs that DOE will be putting out. So, if we are requiring income verification, DOE will put out a technical document about ways that we see states to be able to meet that income verification, so that not everybody is busy recreating the wheel. We want to be able to provide best practices. We want to be able to provide guidance. We want to be able to provide an easy pathway for a state to succeed. But we also recognize that every state is in a different place, and they may either have existing programs that they currently like, or they may have other pathways that they've been working on to administer these rebate programs. I will also say that DOE will be working to enable what we call quick start options for states. So if a state has an existing program, utility program, state-run program, or something that they would like to see continue, and with minor enhancements or potentially no enhancements can meet the guidelines and requirements that DOE puts out, we want to enable that. We want you to be able to keep doing what you think are successful, provided it meets the rules and regs that DOE has forward. So for the quick start options, it is a shorter application, and it will receive priority review from DOE, so that we are able to launch those programs as quick as possible. We would like to see programs start to be launched from the states here in time for this winter heating season. Now, we recognize that every state is in a different place, and we may have some states move sooner, and we may have some states move later. But we want to be able to give the states as much time as we possibly can to start standing up these rebates, and we want to give them a lot of options so that we can make this move quickly. DOE will also be bringing a number of tools to the table to help states succeed. So some of the things that we are currently working on and currently developing are ways to help enable point of sale rebates, ways to assist with income verification or provide best practices around income verification, developing a central database so that we can track rebates that are utilized on a per home basis, so that no home is over incentivized or exceeds the maximum cap on incentives of $14,000. This is currently in process. And so we're working with PNNL, one of the national labs, to help develop these tools. But we're also working with states and NASEO, the National Association of State Energy Officials, to help work with states to develop what states really need in order to make these programs work. We held a kickoff meeting with states on April 13th and are having continual check-ins and updates with the states as we develop these program guidance. So if you are working with a state energy office or are part of a state energy office and you have not received any notification around these check-ins, let me know. And I'll make sure that you get on the distribution list, because again, communication is absolutely key in order to make sure that these rebates are successful. We have a number of key elements that we're tracking here in DOE to make sure that this program is successful. Obviously, we need to make sure that if we're going to achieve the Biden administration's Justice 40 goals, that we are working with our our LMI communities and our historically disadvantaged communities, so that they are able to see themselves as able to participate in these rebate programs. So we need to make sure that we are working with the states, and states are working with their communities to develop targeted outreach for successful uptake of those programs. I've talked a little bit about the tools. We at DOE need to make sure that we're working with the states to develop bill certainty for the customers, and the programs that the states are developing are able to make sure that we are leading customers off better than when they originally started. We know that there's a lot of technical nuance when working with heat pumps, when working with heat pump water heaters. For example, we know that you can't put a heat pump water heater in a closet. It doesn't work. And we know that we need to work to develop the workforce, and that there's adequate checks and balances in place to make sure that the products that are installed correctly, and are installed at the right price point. So we'll be working to develop further guidance to the states around those things, and start to develop kind of no-fail scenarios that states could also implement to make sure that these programs are successful. So I had a shorter presentation here because I figured that a lot of people had questions, and I wanted to make sure that we left plenty of time for that conversation. But we also have a website here. We have an email address that, again, we encourage people, if they're getting questions from their constituents, to pass along that information to. And my email is down there as well. I will say some of the big public facing questions that we're receiving is around look back. If somebody purchases a heat pump now, would they be reimbursed later? We at DOE have not come to an official ruling. However, we encourage states to not do that, because we feel like it would be very difficult to administer. So from the questions that we're receiving, that's probably the #1 question that we're receiving at this point in time. And so just wanted to put that out there as well.